The Boston Celtics just traded Jaylen Brown, a finals MVP still in his prime, and then held a press conference to explain why. And the more they explained, the less it added up. The president gave one reason, the owner gave the opposite reason, and the numbers on the court tell a third story entirely. So today, we are going to take the Celtics at their word, line by line, and show you exactly where the official story falls apart. Because when you actually listen to what they said, it becomes pretty clear the Celtics are not being fully honest about why Jaylen Brown is gone. Let's break it down. Here is the plan. First, the trade itself and why on the court it makes no sense. Then the official story, straight from the president's mouth. Then the exact moments where that story contradicts itself. And finally, the real reason and why they will not just come out and say it. Every quote is real, the stats are verified, the read on what they actually mean is mine. This is Game is Culture. Quick thing first, if you like breakdowns that actually hold front offices accountable instead of just repeating the press release, subscribe. Because this is a masterclass in saying a lot of words without saying the real thing, and we are going to translate all of it. Start with the deal, because you cannot judge the explanation until you see exactly what they did. Here's what happened. Boston sent Jaylen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers. In return, the Celtics got Paul George, 2 future first-round picks, and 2 future second-round picks. The deal was agreed to about a week ago and made official with a press conference, so the headline is simple. A team that just competed for a title traded a 29-year-old superstar for a 36-year-old and a bag of draft picks. Right away, that should make you tilt your head. Championship teams do not usually get worse on purpose, unless the goal was never to get better on the court. And to understand why, you have to see how they got here. Brown signs a record Supermax extension in 2023. Then a new labor deal introduces a brutal penalty tier called the second apron. This past season, Boston is deep into that tier with most of its money in 2 players. And this summer, they moved off of Brown. The dots connect in one very specific direction, and it is not a basketball direction. Now look at the 2 players side by side, and the basketball case just collapses. This past season, Jaylen Brown averaged almost 29 a game in 71 games at 29 years old, in his prime. Paul George, who is a great player and a future Hall of Famer, is 36, played just 37 games and averaged 17. Younger, healthier, more productive on every line. If this were about winning basketball games next season, you simply do not make this trade. And just so we are clear about the caliber of player they let go, this is Jaylen Brown's season. Nearly 29 points a night on solid efficiency, a top usage star, a plus 321 on the year, and one of the defining two-way wings of his generation. This is not a guy you dump for basketball reasons. This is a franchise cornerstone. So the reason has to be something else, and the Celtics tried to tell us what it was. So here is the official explanation, straight from team president Brad Stevens. Listen closely, because the words are chosen very carefully. When asked why he traded Jaylen Brown, this was Stevens' central reason. Notice what he leads with. Not defense, not shooting, not fit, numbers, percentages, the cap. Now, in fairness, this argument is real, and I want to steelman it. Under the new labor deal, there is a penalty tier called the second apron, and it is designed to punish teams that stack expensive stars. When 70% of your cap sits in 2 players, you lose the ability to add depth, you get hit with restrictions, and building a full roster gets really hard. That is a legitimate basketball business problem. So far, Stevens is making a coherent point. 2 max contracts in this era is genuinely painful. Hold on to that, because it is the strongest version of their case, and it is about to quietly undercut everything else they say. Then he was asked how much the analytics, the fancy numbers about Brown's game, factored into the decision, and his answer basically told on the whole thing. Think about what that admission does. If the analytics on Brown's play were only a small piece, then the decision was not really about how he performs on the court, which leaves only one thing as the big piece: the money and the cap. Stevens just quietly confirmed that this was a financial call, not a basketball one. He told you the on-court stuff barely moved the needle. So by his own logic, the needle was moved by the contract. Keep that in your back pocket, because in about a minute, the owner is going to say the exact opposite. And this is where it really starts to unravel, because a reporter did not let him off the hook. Stevens kept using one word to justify the trade: optionality. The idea that moving Brown gives the team more flexibility. But a reporter pointed out the obvious. You still have most of your cap tied up in 2 players. Now Jason Tatum and Paul George. You still do. So how does swapping one expensive star for another expensive star create this magical optionality? And Steven's answer is the most revealing thing he said all day. Here is how he explained where the extra optionality actually comes from. Read it carefully because there is not a single basketball word in it. Let's translate that into plain English. Length of contract and assets. Length of contract means Paul George is signed for less time and he has a player option, so Boston can get off his money sooner. Assets means the draft picks they got back. That is it. That is the whole reason. It is not that George makes them better. It is that George is cheaper to escape and came with picks. And read between the lines. If the value is that his deal is short and easy to dump, that tells you they do not even plan to keep George at that price. This was never a talent decision. It was a balance sheet decision, and Stevens just spelled it out. So the president just spent an entire press conference explaining a money decision, and then the owner walked up to the microphone. This is team owner Bill Chisholm on the very same trade at the very same podium, and it directly contradicts everything his own president just laid out. And he went further, getting ahead of exactly the criticism this video is making. He knows how it looks. So put the two men next to each other. The president says the path was too hard with 70% of the cap in 2 players, that the analytics were only a small piece, and that the whole benefit is shorter contracts and assets. The owner says none of it was about money. Those two statements cannot both be fully true. One of them just explained a financial decision in detail. The other says money had nothing to do with it. That is not a small gap. That is the president and the owner telling 2 different stories about the same trade on the same day. Lay it out plainly. On one side, everything Stevens said points at the cap, the contract length, and the assets. On the other, the owner insists it was not about money. When the 2 top voices in the building contradict each other this directly, that is usually a sign the real answer is the one they are trying hardest to talk around. So let's say the quiet part out loud. What is the real reason Jaylen Brown is gone? Here is my read. My read is this. The Jaylen Brown trade was a cap move, first and last. Boston looked at the second apron, looked at 2 Supermax contracts eating their entire team, and decided the tax bill and the roster restrictions were not worth it. So they swapped their most expensive long-term commitment for a shorter one plus picks, and reset their books. That is a completely defensible decision. Front offices make hard money calls all the time. The problem is not the decision. The problem is the story around it. So how honest is the official version? On my meter, low. Not because they made a bad trade, but because they will not name the actual reason. The president described a money decision in detail, and the owner stood up and said it was not about money. You cannot have it both ways. When the explanation requires 2 contradictory stories, the truth is the thing neither one wants to say on camera. And to be fair, here is the honest version they could have said. We love Jaylen Brown, but the new cap rules made 2 Supermax stars impossible to build around. So we made a painful financial decision to stay flexible and competitive. Every Celtics fan would have understood that. It is real, it is defensible, and it respects the audience. Instead, they gave us optionality, a small piece, and none of this was about money, all in the same afternoon. That is why this rubs people the wrong way. It is not the trade. It is being told a prime superstar was moved for basketball reasons, while the fine print screams it was about the cap. Own the real reason, and this is a smart, tough call. Dodge it, and it just looks like they are hiding the ball. The tell is in the details. A player option that lets them off George's money early, 2 first-round picks, and 2 seconds coming back. The president admitting the on-court analytics barely mattered. Every single piece of this trade is built around the books and the future, not around next season's starting 5. That is not a conspiracy theory. It is just reading their own words back to them. This was about the money. They just do not want to be the team that said it out loud. So that is the Jaylen Brown trade, and the story that does not hold together. A cap decision dressed up as a basketball one, with the president and the owner contradicting each other on the way out the door. So tell me, do you think the Celtics are being straight with their fans? Or is this exactly the spin it looks like? Drop it below. And we are so close to 2,000 subs, so subscribe to stay up to date.